What's going on, everybody? American Football Network here with another video today. And today we have for you guys a Boise State preview and prediction video with our buddy Ty. But before we get started, make sure you guys like and subscribe, comment those thoughts and opinions down below. Help me reach that goal of 1,400 subscribers by the end of July. Check out the description for links to our shop, podcast website, Patreon page, and our college football roundup channel. But we are very happy to have a guest on with us today. Ty, how you doing, man?
Doing well, man. How you doing?
Doing good. Glad to have you on. Go ahead and let everybody know where they can find you at.
Yeah, you can find me on X at tshine, TSCHEINE. And I also host my own mini podcast. It's called the Ties 2 Minute Drill, where I pretty much break down the latest college football news over the past week in under 2 minutes.
Great stuff over there from him. And I will have his links in the description and pinned in the comment section for you guys. So after you get done watching the video, go check that out and check all of his stuff out. But let's go ahead and jump in with our video today. So we're bringing you guys our Boise State prediction today and just previewing what the Broncos have coming up for them this year. Last year, a bit of a down year for Boise State, a good year for a lot of programs, but for them a little bit of a down year for what they've been doing. Went 8-6 overall, 6-2 in the Mountain West. They had some tough games. Started out week 1 at Washington. Had UCF in week 2, lost a close one, and that went 18-16, and then lost at Fresno State and at Colorado State as well in a close one. And both of those 37-30 to Fresno State, 31-30 to Colorado State, and then lost to UCLA in the LA Bowl, 35-22. But what are your thoughts on this Boise State team both last year and coming into this year?
Yeah, I mean, echoing your sentiment, last year, for them, kind of disappointing, at that 8-6 record. I think they started off really strong, but, losing those key games down the stretch, that Fresno State was definitely a big one. And then, ending the year, losing to UCLA in the I think it was the Louisiana Bowl. I also, obviously tough, with, firing Andy Avalos. I think it was like after week 12. So, then Spencer Danielson, comes in. So obviously that's always a bit of a transition at the end of the season. But, I think, keeping Spencer as the head coach, in terms of continuity, I think, heading into 2024, I think they're really returning a huge core of the talent. Obviously, Gentry at running back. There's also they're bringing a true freshman running back, Sire Gaines, who, I think will help, spill some of, Gentry's carries as well, which I think, will be good. The 1-2 punch there. And I think also, heading into this year, the Mountain West schedule for them is relatively easy. I mean, I know we'll get into the games shortly, but, I really think it's their conference to lose this year.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, and like we just talked about, kind of a down year last year record-wise for Boise State. They still won the Mountain West. As you talked about Danielson, he went 3-1 in the 4 games that he filled in as interim coach. Beat Utah State 45-10, beat Air Force 27-19, beat UNLV in the Mountain West Championship 44-20, and then lost that bowl game to UCLA 35-22. But yeah, I agree with you. I think it's a good move to keep him. Like you said, for continuity, and I think he's a pretty good head coach as well. A pretty solid recruiter. Big guy they got this year, Chris Marshall, coming in, wide receiver, 4-star. I expect him to have a little bit of an impact as well. But when you really look at the big guy for Boise State that they get this year, it's got to be Malachi Nelson, the transfer quarterback from USC that they bring in. Just an elite talent. I think that he's gonna play very well for this Boise State team. What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited to see Nelson. Obviously, I think he was a former number one recruit, obviously at USC. So high expectations coming in, and I think putting into this offense with his skill set, obviously the running back position with Ashton Gentry, and then as you mentioned, I mean the receiving core is really good. Not just Chris Marshall, they bring in transfers. I think Cam Camper as well. Latrell Caples is coming off an injury from last year, so between Nelson and in the running back and receiver position, I think. Again, it's going to be a really fun offense to watch.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And then continuing looking at that offense, on the offensive line, they bring back 4 or 5 starters. Only guy that they lose is their right tackle. Defensively, they return 7 starters as well, lose an edge rusher, a middle linebacker, and two safeties. But this is a very talented team all across the board. Definitely by far the most talent in the Mountain West. When you look at them, When you look at this roster overall, they have the most talented roster, and I expect for this team to be a very good team. I think they're the team to beat this year in the Mountain West. Like you said earlier, it's their conference to lose. So let's go ahead and jump in to our record predictions for them and see if they will lose this conference. So they start out week one. They go on the road to Georgia Southern. What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I think they should handle business at Georgia Southern. Should be a win. Pretty sure my research. I think Georgia Southern led the FBS last year with over 30 or 31 turnovers. Their defense allowed over 30 points last year, so I think this should be an easy win for Boise, especially given the production that they're returning on offense. So I have this as a win.
I agree. I have this as a win. It was a little bit of an interesting matchup when you look to start out week one going cross country from Idaho to Georgia, but I don't think that's going to be a problem for Boise State. I think they handle business here. And then they get probably the toughest game they're going to get on their schedule all year. Now, that depends on the bowl game that they end up with, but definitely just in the regular season, this is going to be the toughest one. They got to go on the road to Oregon. What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I think the Ducks will get. I think it's actually going to be their first win because I think the Broncos are 3-0 versus Oregon all time. But I think this will be the first time that Oregon will get their first W versus Boise. I'm hoping. I think it should be a decent game, but I think Oregon's just going to have too much manpower on offense and the defensive side. So I think they're going to be starting out 1-1.
For sure, I agree with you there. I just think Oregon has too much on both sides of the football, and on the sideline. I think that Oregon definitely has the better coaching staff, and I don't think Boise State has the talent to compete with them. I see this game kind of being like the Washington game last year for Boise State, where they come out, in the first quarter look pretty good, and then it just goes downhill for them from there. But I think that it'll be a good learning experience for this team, a game that they can really use as a chip on their shoulder, and to really help them for the rest of the season. So then they get a bye week. Then they get the Portland State Vikings. What are your thoughts on this game for Boise?
Yeah, I don't know how much to handicap here. I think being FCS opponent, I think they should handle their business. Coming off the loss, to Oregon, if assuming that plays out, then they have the bye week. I think they should be handling their business here in versus Portland State.
For sure, yeah. I think especially with that bye week in there, I think they're going to crush them. Don't really think this will be much of a game. Then they get Washington State, one of the two lone Pac-12 teams left. What are your thoughts on this game? Who do you have winning this one?
Yeah, I think Boise should win this game. Washington State lost Cam Ward. I think they lost a few other key pieces. Not a lot of returning production. Funny thing is, I think Boise is actually 1-5 all time versus the Cougars, but I think they'll get their second W all time. I think this will be a W.
For sure, yeah. I think this will be a win for Boise State. I just think Washington State, especially after losing Cam Ward as he's off to Miami, you don't have a whole lot of talent on your team, particularly at the quarterback position. Just not a great roster overall for Washington State. Now they can be a sneaky team at times. We saw that last year. But again, like I said, last year, they have Cam Ward for a majority of last season. And so I just don't think Washington State has enough to get the win here, especially with this game being at Boise State. I have this game as a win for the Broncos. Then they get the Utah State Aggies. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, again, another game at home. I think they should take care of business. Utah State, obviously with the news of, actually just came official today, I think that the coach is not coming back. And so, who knows even what's going to happen in the next 30 days. Cause now, I think their players will have a chance to transfer out. So I think there's just a lot of uncertainty around that program right now. I think this will be another W for the Broncos.
For sure, yeah. It's tough to lose a coach in the middle of the summer, right before the season's about to start, especially a guy like Blake Anderson, who's been a good coach for him. I believe he was let me look here, 74 and 54 in his 10 years as a head coach, 23 and 17 with his 3 years at Utah State. He's been a good head coach. And to lose him on top of you bring in Iowa's former quarterback Spencer Petras, not a good look there. I don't think that this Utah State team is going to be very good offensively at all. You lose a lot on defense as well. I have this game as a win for Boise State. I just think the Broncos have too much all over the field, too much talent for Utah State to compete in this one. Then they go on the road to Hawaii. What are your thoughts on this game for them?
I mean, again, as long as they're playing to how they can play, I think Boise should win. I think sometimes playing, going into Hawaii, I know some teams sometimes have a little bit of trouble with the time change, but I think, they should be able to handle their business and get the W over in Hawaii.
For sure, I agree. Now you look, Hawaii can be a sneaky team, like you said. The time change going over there, they got a good quarterback in Braden Schrager. It's a team that can win some football games. They went 5-8 last year, 3-5 in the Mountain West. So not a terrible season for them. They could be a sneaky team, but again, other than Oregon so far on the schedule, the only teams that can beat Boise State is Boise State,
Agreed. Yeah.
by the way that they play. So again, I think this should be a win. If they don't play to their level, this is definitely a game they could lose, especially when you look ahead to the bye week and then at UNLV, who's probably going to be playing them in the Mountain West Championship again. This could be a potential trap game for them. But then they get the bye week. They're on the road at UNLV, a team that they beat in the Mountain West Championship last year, 44-20. What are your thoughts on this game here, and who do you have winning?
Yeah, I mean, I think this could be really the second toughest game on the schedule after the Oregon game, right? I mean, I think the good thing for Boise is that it's off a bye week. But UNLV is a good team. I think they're well coached. They lost their quarterback Maeve. I think he's going to USC. I think they brought in the transfer from Holy Cross, Matthew Sluka. And they're as you mentioned, they're probably looking for revenge from last year. I mean, I think they ended up blowing them out 44-20. They have Ricky White at receiver, one of the top playmakers in the Mountain West, and not the G5, good O-line running backs. So I think it's going to be a tough game. I lean towards Boise pulling it out because I do think they are the better team, but I think this is probably going to be a pretty close matchup, and if not the second toughest game on their schedule.
I agree. Yeah, when I look at the schedule for Boise, this is definitely, in my opinion, the second toughest game that they have on here. Not just because UNLV is a great team, but because they also have to go on the road to play them. And like you mentioned, Ricky White, he's going to be a handful to take care of and handle. But he's going to make some plays. You're not going to shut him down and completely stop him, as well as Jacob DeSuze and Casey Kane. That's just some other talented wide receivers that this team has on offense. But for me, the big thing for me in this one is I have Boise State winning because of the defensive side of the ball. I think that defensively, Boise State is better than UNLV, and I think that's going to become the difference in the game. I think both of these offenses are going to put up a lot of points, but I trust Boise's defense to get a stop late in the fourth quarter. Then I trust UNLV to get a stop late in the fourth, and I think that'll be the difference in the football game for that one. Next up, we have San Diego State. What are your thoughts on this game here for Boise?
Yeah, I mean, I think San Diego State, they have a new coach in Sean Lewis, right? He brings his high-speed offense from, Kent State, obviously most recently in Colorado. I think it, could be a shootout, but again, I think Boise should be able to win this game. I think it's really going to be a rebuilding year for the Aztecs. I'm actually excited. I think, they have something going there with Sean Lewis. But I think Boise this is a W for Boise.
I agree. Yeah, I have this game down as a win. San Diego State, they return one starter defensively, 5 offensively. They lose their quarterback, bringing in another one. It's just there's not a whole lot of returning talent on San Diego State. I agree. I think that this is going to be much of a rebuilding year for them. They did play Boise State close last year, lost Boise State come out on top 34-31 in that one. But I agree. I think this is going to be a game that Boise State should handle and take care of business. I agree with you. San Diego State does have something working with Sean Lewis. I just don't know if it's going to be something in his first season at head coach. So next up, after San Diego State, they take on Nevada at home. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a similar theme over the next couple or between San Diego State the next few games, because I think Nevada is also in a rebuilding mode. They're bringing in new head coach, Jeff Choate. he was a former Boise assistant, I think, in 2006 to 2011. So there's a little familiarity there. But again, I think, new coach, kind of rebuilding. This should be another W for the Broncos.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, you look, Nevada is probably going to be the worst team in the Mountain West this year. I have them picked to finish last. Either them or New Mexico, I would imagine. Maybe San Jose State in there, who they play next week. But yeah, I have this as a win for Boise State. I just don't think Nevada is a very good team. I don't think they have talent. Like you said, I agree. I think they're in a rebuilding mode. They're not going to be able to take on the top dog in their conference, but again, it's one of those games where Nevada's not good enough to beat Boise State, but Boise State can beat themselves and end up losing this game. So they do got to be careful and play up to their level. But if they do that, I have it as a win. Then they go on the road to San Jose State. What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, again, similar to the last few. I think this is now the third game in a row where they'll be facing a new head coach, and Ken Niumatalolo from Navy, I like him. He's a really good coach. But again, San Jose State losing a lot of key players. Chevon Cardero, the quarterback, leading rusher, Kari Robinson, both no longer with the team. I think, again, probably a program maybe on the rise, but as in San Jose State, but Broncos, I think, again, should take care of business and get a W here.
For sure, for sure. I have a win here for Boise State, and you mentioned San Jose State bringing in a new coach in Kenya Matalola. I'm interested to see if San Jose State runs the triple option wishbone offense here, because if they do, that may cause a little bit of problems for Boise State defensively, but I don't see those problems going past halftime.
So it's funny you
You know,
say that. I heard that the offense, I think it's gonna be led by Craig Stutzman, and he runs more of like a run and shoot, kind of spread and shred. So I think, I don't know if it's actually going to be like the standard, Navy offense that we're used to. I think there is going to be more of a run and shoot aspect to it. At least that's what I kind of read. So I guess we'll see.
That's what I kind of imagined, that it wouldn't be that it'd be a little more heavy on the run, but that it wouldn't be a full on triple option, just because one, he's taken over a new team. He doesn't have his players in there to really run that scheme. And that's the scheme. You got to have the right guys in there if you want it to work. You can't just put anybody into that offense and it runs smoothly. So if they do end up running the run and shoot, Boise State won't have any trouble with a new offense. It's something that a lot of the Mountain West teams run. It's a pretty common scheme in the conference. And regardless of what offensive scheme they run, I think Boise State wins the game, and I think they win it pretty easily. I just don't think that San Jose State is a very good football team, like you said, and kind of in a rebuild mode like the last three teams that they played. So yeah, I have this as a win for the Broncos. Next up, they go on the road to Wyoming. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, another team with a new coach, right? Craig Bowl retired. Jace Savell is stepping in. They're usually, Wyoming's usually tough on both sides of the ball, but also it's always tough to go win a game in Laramie. But I still think, the Broncos should handle business here, get the W here. I know actually the Cowboys, they've lost 7 straight to Boise, and I think it's going to be an 8th.
I agree. Yeah, I think this year will be 8 straight. We've seen some really good Wyoming teams these past few years, especially last year went 9-4 overall, but they lose some more pieces off of this team. And even with a great season that they had last year, they still lost to Boise State 32-7, and they lose even more talent. I feel like Wyoming has gotten worse over this offseason from this past year, and I feel like Boise State's gotten better. And I think that's going to be the difference here. It will be tough. It will be one that Boise State can't sleepwalk into. They got to play up to their potential. It's one that I think will be closer for 2.5 quarters, but I think towards midway through the third quarter or sooner, Boise State will start to pull away and come out with a comfortable win in this one. Then they get Oregon State at home. What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I mean, Oregon State's, could be a tough team, but I feel like this year, a lot more uncertainty, right? I mean, again, Johnson Smith's gone as head coach. Trent Bray steps in, who I think actually will be a good head coach over time. But I think a lot of loss on production. Damon Martinez to Miami, DJU to Florida State. I just don't think they have the playmakers. Oregon State, and last game of the season at home, I think the Broncos, they should cap off the season with a win here.
For sure, I agree. I have it as a win. You look at Oregon State, they bring back 3 starters from last year's team, 2 offensively, 1 defensively. They bring back the left guard, the tight end, and a corner. They lose their head coach, bring a new guy in. They lost both of their quarterbacks, their running back. They lost everybody. And I don't think that they're going to have enough talent on this team to really – and like you said, it really comes down to playmakers. I just don't think they have enough of them. And for me, when I look at this game, Oregon State could be a tough team. They're going to be very physical on the lines of scrimmage, probably out physical Boise State in this game. But the difference to me is Malachi Nelson at QB for Boise State. He's just the better quarterback. And I think that just that alone is what's going to give Boise State the win. I just think he's going to be able to make plays that Oregon State's not going to be able to replicate or fire back from. And so Boise State coming away with the win. So I think we both had them 11-1, only loss at Oregon. Pretty good season for Boise State. They'll be back in the Mountain West Championship if they have a season like that with their only loss being non-conference, undefeated in the Mountain West. So very good season. Appreciate you coming on with me, Ty. Go ahead and let everybody know once again where they can find you before we head out of here today.
Yep. You can find me on X, Tshine, TSCHEINE. All good.
Yep. So go check him out. We appreciate him coming on for us. He will be on with us for a few more videos this summer as we preview through a lot of the college football teams. We appreciate all of you guys watching. We hope you enjoyed today's video. Make sure you like and subscribe, and check the description and the pinned comment down below where you can find the links to Ty's show and his Twitter. But we appreciate all of you tuning in, and we will see you next time.